So, being on BookTube and talking a lot about different books that I like, fandoms that I like, and doing hauls and wrap-ups and talking about what I've read means that I get asked the same or similar questions quite a lot of the time. So one person will ask something, someone else will ask the same thing, and it ends up being that I build up a list of questions that are all the same, and then I'm constantly replying the same thing to everyone. So there are a couple of questions that I have received sort of over the past year now that I've got quite a lot of, that I thought I could turn into videos to talk about because they do warrant a big explanation, I guess, and I can give lots of information if I sit down and make one video about them. So there are three main questions that I get asked. One is, how do you get all of your books? Where do you get them from if you're on a budget? Have you got any tips for getting books on a budget? Which I always am, so that's where I get quite a lot of my books. How do you read so much? And then also, how do you look after your books and your bookshelves? So I've decided to turn this into a, I guess, three-part, but if there's any other questions that people want, then obviously leave them below and I can see if I can make them into a video, and make these videos finally discussing books on a budget, which is this video, how I read so much and how I make sure that I stay on top of my reading targets and all that kind of thing, and then also looking after my bookshelves and books, because that is a question I get asked so much. So ever since I was a kid, I didn't just get bought books. My parents couldn't just buy me all the books in the world, and I couldn't, obviously I didn't have my own income, so I couldn't buy all the books in the world. When I then became old enough to get my own job, I was still at school, so I only worked on weekends, and then now I do work full-time but have like adult things like bills and taxes and shit like that that's really boring. I've never just had 100% disposable income to just go into a bookshop and blow on books. I don't do that. I don't particularly like buying books at full price. They're expensive, they're a lot of money, and I always try and find ways to make sure that I am getting the best deal for what I'm buying. If I'd bought every book on the shelf full price, that would be a lot of money. A lot of money. So here are some books on a budget tips and places that I get my books from, so thought I would do that. The most obvious one is the library. Obviously you do not get to keep these books, but it is a free place for you to get books and read books, and obviously you do have to take them back, but it also means that you don't waste money, because if you do decide you want to buy a book you've read, at least you've read it and you know you absolutely like it, rather than going into a shop, spending some money and then not liking it, and then you've wasted £8 or £9 on a book. This is my local library card. I use this a lot. The library is great. I think they're kind of not as popular as they were, with, you know, books being more accessible, but they're so good. And when you are on a budget, when I was a child I would not have read as much as I could have done if I didn't have one of these. There's also an app which is really cool. I actually first saw on a video that ABEbooks did, which I'll link down below, called Overdrive, where basically you sign up to it and then you find your local library and you enter your library card details, and you can download ebooks and audiobooks straight to your phone from that, which is very useful. Obviously audiobooks are very expensive, so it's a way to get audiobooks for free, and again you only get them for a certain amount of time, but it's a good way to have those books and be able to read those books without having to spend £20 on an audiobook. Another place where I get my books, and really helps me when I'm on a budget with my books, is online marketplaces, places like eBay, where people sell books secondhand, which is really good. One place that I use the most, which really helps me, is the Waterstones marketplace, and there's secondhand and rare books on there for very cheap, and obviously they are secondhand, but when you're getting a book for a penny, does it really matter? I've got so many books from the Waterstones marketplace for a penny. I don't think I've ever spent more than £1 on books on there because of just how cheap they are, which is really good and really handy. Obviously Amazon have a marketplace as well where you can get secondhand books, and obviously as well for secondhand books, charity shops are brilliant. You can get some really good books in charity shops for not a lot of money, and it all goes to a really good cause. Speaking about Amazon, online is always a really good place to get books on a budget, because Amazon is usually a lot cheaper than books in a bookshop, which saddens me to say, but if you can get a book for like £5 cheaper, why wouldn't you? And places like Book Depository, where the books are again cheaper, but also it has things like free shipping, which means that you don't have to pay that little bit extra, so you're getting a cheaper book and you don't have to pay for it to come to your house. So it's essentially like walking into a bookshop and getting it, except it's a lot cheaper and it's being delivered straight to you, so it's good. And bookshops, because obviously you should support local bookshops, because if we do not support them they won't be there for much longer, and I am a huge advocate of supporting your local bookshops, independent bookshops and big chain bookshops, but it's also really good to know about deals that they have in those shops. So for example, Waterstones do their buy one get one half price book deals. If a book is stickered, you can get one book and get another one half price, which means you've gotten 2 books for cheaper than they should be. BUSINESS do their 3 for 2 deal. Supermarkets also do this, and I know this isn't supporting a local bookshop, but I got all my new Harry Potter books for 2 for £7. So I got Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince for £7. So like for £7. So it was like £21 for those, and then I just had to buy Deathly Hallows, so that was significantly cheaper than the £8.99 that they are by themselves. I know Sainsbury's do similar deals, and it's just always good to know like where you're going to get your books from. So if you decide you're going to shop always at Foyles, or you're going to shop at Waterstones or BUSINESS, or if you have decided that you're like independent shops, it's always good to kind of know the certain deals that they have on, or when they have those deals on, and times of year. I know that after Christmas time, Waterstones had loads of books that were half price, so if you can just wait that couple of extra days, you can get a book for a lot cheaper. Also with pre-ordering, you can usually get them for half price, which is always good for me. If there's a book I know I'm going to want to read, like Lord of Shadows when that was coming out, or the new V. Schwab book and that kind of thing, if you pre-order it, it's usually half price if it's a really big release, or there's £5 off of it or £10 off of it, which is really handy because it's saving you a lot of money. I also am obsessed with book loyalty cards. These! So I have the Foyles one, which is the Foyalty card, which is great, and obviously the Waterstones one as well. Waterstones also have a student card. It's no longer a card. I still have this in my purse because obviously when I worked there I couldn't have a loyalty card because I had a discount card. But I just kept it anyway. But now it's an app, so students actually get more points, which is really good to know when you're on a budget. And the same with Waterstones and Foyles, you can use those points to take money off the books. So if you have 100 points, you get £1 off the book and you can use it. You can use it in little bits and always kind of save a little bit of money, or you can save it up until you've got like £50 worth and then use it all to buy books. So it's really handy if you want to save that for books for pleasure. So when I worked there, I knew people that would save up the points on their cards to buy themselves books that they wanted to read for fun, and then would use their own money to buy themselves books for academic purposes or work purposes, or then also vice versa. So they would buy their own books for fun and then save up points for academic and book purposes, which just means that you save a little bit of money. You're essentially getting some money back. Whenever you spend money, you get a little bit back onto your loyalty card, which is really useful. And Waterstones also have a stamp card, which I need to get a new one of because I haven't had one obviously because I've been working there. Every time you spend over £10 you get a stamp, and once you've got 10 stamps you can either use it for £10 off, or you can put £10 worth of points onto your card. Also, there is a really cool thing on the internet called Books for Trade. So if you go on Twitter and search the hashtag Books for Trade, you can see books that people want and books they're willing to exchange it from. So if you maybe have a look on there and there's a book that you're going to be getting rid of that you could give to the person, and they've got a book that they'd be willing to swap you with, you can get books that way, which has been really useful for me, and I know so many people that have used this system as well. Obviously make sure that the person is all legit and stuff, but it's been a really good way to get books and to also get rid of books and declutter a little bit and then do it that way. So that's also another way that I use to get books. Also ebooks and audiobooks. So obviously you can get audiobook subscriptions. I mentioned before the library app Overdrive, which is really useful. Ebooks are significantly cheaper, and I know they're not the same as having a physical book. Sometimes if there's a book I really want to get but it is quite expensive because it's maybe a new hardback, or I just can't afford it, the whole thing right in that moment, I will use my Kindle to get it. And if you don't have a Kindle or an iPad or any kind of e-reader, you can actually, there are so many apps on your phone which you can download. There's the Kindle app, there's the iBooks app, and there's loads of stuff on your phone which you can download in order to kind of turn your phone into a mini e-reader. And most of those apps are usually free. Obviously you do have to have the Amazon account linked so that you can buy them and download them, but all of mine are all linked together, so even if I don't want to take my Kindle out with me, I can just do it on the Kindle app on my phone. And this is editing me. I have been filming and editing loads of different videos for loads of different projects all day, so I'm not surprised that I let something slip. And on topic with the ebook thing, there's actually an ebook site that I use loads. It's called Bookbookbub. and I signed up to it, and every day I get sent emails of my daily ebook deals. So they're really cheap ebooks for like 99p and sometimes even cheaper, and just kind of around that, and they're not expensive at all, and I use it all the time to get some ebooks. Sometimes they're even free, and it's just really cool because it means that I can get some really good books and I don't have to pay for them, or I'm not paying as much for them as I would be, just saving a little bit of money. So it's really good because sometimes you see books that you've wanted for a while on there and they're so much cheaper. So I'll link that. So that is just some of my books on a budget tip and some of the places where I get my books from. Obviously I do sometimes go into a bookshop and I'll buy a book full price. It's not like I never do it, I do it a lot, but sometimes I do need to be reasonable and think I'm on a budget this month, or I don't have as much money because I had to buy this. So I hope that this video answered the question that I get asked quite a lot. Any tips for books on a budget / where do you get all of your books from, because you have quite a fair few. If you also have any other places or cool tips for books on a budget, then please do let me know. Any places where you know you can get books at a really good price, or any cool places that you get your books that I may not have mentioned, then do leave them below because they will be very helpful. If you're new here, I make videos a couple of times a week, so if you'd like to stick around and join us, then you can do that. And as usual, all my links will be in the description below if you would like to come hang out on the other social media. Thank you guys for watching. I hope we're doing really well, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!